Hello and welcome to the next episode of Cylinder Radio. Today, my guest is Dani Solorio. She is the owner of Compton Health Bar, and we're going to talk about I can hit a couple of birds with this one stone. We're going to talk about food deserts. We're going to talk about being a small business owner during COVID and talk about the importance of a healthy lifestyle. So I'm excited to get this one out for you guys. But I want to introduce my guest first, and we actually are just meeting now for the first time, and I'm really thrilled to have her on. So Dani, welcome to Cylinder Radio. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what brought you into this space, makes you kind of an expert when it comes to small business, food deserts, healthy living, stuff like that.
Well, thank you, first of all, so much for inviting me. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. And I don't know about expert, but I can certainly share my experiences, with the topics that we're gonna cover. But so I'm actually originally from Michoacán, Mexico, and my parents brought me here when I was 6. We moved here and grew up in Linwood. There's a community right next to Compton. Mm-hmm. We're neighbors. In fact, Linwood is often lovingly known as Compton Junior, in terms of just how much alike they are. And so, I grew up in Linwood. And then, once I was in high school and I realized I'm not going to be able to get into because I was undocumented. I never got, my parents were undocumented. I was undocumented, so there was no Social Security. And, I don't know if you know how that goes, but you don't have access to much of anything, including, loans and school and all of that. And so when I was in high school, I was like, I'm not going to be able to college not going to be an option. My parents can't afford it. Yeah. That's not going to be an avenue. So started getting jobs in warehouses and stuff like that until I was, I think, 21. My first business was a video store in the indoor swap meet. And at the time, this was when Netflix was starting to emerge, but this was in Compton. So people there still like their DVDs. They still love their physical movies. So even though you're starting to move into the streaming world at this time, our store was still popping because people like their DVDs. And so that was then what saving the cash from that did so well that when the opportunity came to take over this health store inside that same swap meet that was up for sale, along with my family, we were able to do it. And from then on, it just this was 2012, I think it was. Okay. That store, that small booth in the indoor swap meet is what eventually became Compton Health Bar. And we rebranded, I think, in 2018 or something like that. Because it was a small, it was an herbs and remedies. And Compton Health Bar is all about, bringing health to the hood. And the way we do that is by trying to get people to reconnect with our ancestral remedies, with our, connect with the earth, connect with, with everything that's been lost. And, and of course, to bring as many resources and education on how we can get a little healthier, because growing up there myself in a food desert, which is what we're going to talk about today, I can tell you, it's you don't grow up healthy, you don't grow up feeling good. It's not, my own journey with health issues, is part of why Compton Health Bar is so close to my heart. It's a project that's not just personal, but also to help as many people as we can in the hood. But that's the trajectory of how we got here. It's been an adventure with a lot of ups and downs in between, and but it's been great. The support that we've gotten from the community, from some major influential people who have helped us get the message out. Now Telemundo, the Spanish network, is also one of our. I'm actually on there on a weekly basis with segments on health. So that's been huge blessing and stuff. So it's been great, man. It's been a blessed trajectory.
Very, very cool. Yeah. I mean, entrepreneurship, like it just seems to kind of be in your blood. And sometimes it's one of those things. I mean, my wife is an immigrant, and, I'm like as white as it comes. I'm like, suburban Pennsylvania growing up is the risks that come from entrepreneurship is we're just like, well, why would I risk that much? I'm living
Right.
comfortably. But when you don't live comfortably, it's like, what do I got to lose? I'm going all in. My wife is super entrepreneurial because she didn't have a whole lot of options coming here from the Philippines,
Right.
and
Yeah, exactly. You
yeah,
can't really say that's the best option because that's the only way that you'll be able to get, to live, I guess what people consider the American dream. That's
yeah.
that's the only path to it, really.
I mean, anything that gets in the way of the American dream is something that's like my target enemy when it comes to like policies and stuff. Cause I just believe in the American dream so much. And that's something that I promote constantly on here in my class, on my social media, everything. When you say Compton, like I have listeners from kind of all over the world now, which is pretty incredible. And, what we know about Compton is it's like the go-to example of like the hood because of NWA and all that kind of stuff. So
Right.
like, how accurate is the kind of cliche stereotype about Compton?
Um, I mean, it's not accurate. I wouldn't say that at all. I mean, yes, there's some, there's rap and there's some damn good talented rappers coming out of Compton.
Mhm.
That's for sure. Artistic people, but it's not as dangerous as people depicted. You're not guaranteed to be assaulted. To be,
Right.
it's no, it's not at all that. It's a community that wants to thrive, that wants to feel good, that wants what everybody else wants, which is, to live a happy, healthy life with,
Yeah.
well, I mean, and most people probably want more than that, but like,
Oh,
in
that's a
Compton, it's no
lot.
different as far as like what people want.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, it's not, I'm sure there was certainly a time when it was dangerous. There was, more gang
Mhm.
activity, more violence for sure. It went through its, yeah, the whole area has gone through ups and downs for sure. But currently, um, it's a city that it keeps improving and wants to keep improving, and you can feel that from the people, from everybody. That people
Yeah.
want to thrive, but it's a lot of stuff stacked against us.
Yeah, well, it's so in line with what's over here, my podcast, which is like if you've never been to those neighborhoods, and I've taught in like East LA and then taught in like West LA, and they're very different parts of LA, and they don't mix a lot.
Right.
And if you don't know anything about you know Compton or whatever, Highland Park or whatever, South LA, you haven't been to those places, then you have this very like pixelated view about what it is, where the
Right.
reality is, yeah, there are some people there who are involved in the gang life and stuff like that, but the vast majority don't like that. They want that out. They want that element out. They're just hardworking people trying to make a living, and it's really hard when there are people around who are involved in that, the drugs and the gang violence and stuff like that, but the vast majority are not. So we have this concept that like, oh, everyone there is a criminal, where it's far, far, far from that.
Far from, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Um, so the concept of food deserts, when I was telling some friends of mine and relatives and stuff that I was doing a podcast on this, because I was actually really excited to get you on, they were like almost 100% of them were like, oh, what's a food desert? And to me, I was shocked because I thought this was just common vernacular of like, this is just what this is. But people don't know what a food desert is. So can you just educate us on what that term means?
It means it's when you don't have access to healthy food, to fresh food, to real food. And by not having access, it means it's either too far away. And that's really the experience here. I can tell you about my experience, in the food desert here in Compton, and then where I grew up. We always had fast food restaurants
Yeah.
a lot closer to our house than food markets
Yeah. Or liquor stores, right?
and liquor stores. It was always liquor stores.
Yeah.
Liquor stores are the most common. Liquor store and fast foods, fast food spots, and 7-Elevens.
Yeah.
That's the closest thing, to everyone's house.
So
And
that's where you eat.
yeah, so that's where you eat, and
Yeah.
you are, what you eat, and it's, so when that's all that you're eating, people are going to be the most unhealthy. And that's what I experienced, not just in my own family, but with my customers that come into the store. The first thing we talk about is nutrition. It's like, okay, you have all these things going on with you. Tell me about your food. Like, what does it look like? And the foodscape always consists of fast food, things that you can find at the liquor store. And so a food desert is just, it's that. It's like you are in a place where you don't have access to fresh food, real food. You are left with frankenfoods, you're left with processed foods, because that's all that's available and easiest to obtain. And
when I taught in East LA, like I would see the kids every morning, and their breakfast every morning, it was a bag of hot Cheetos and a Monster energy drink.
Yes.
And I remember just being like, oh my gosh. Like, yeah, I love what you said. Like, you are what you eat. You are literally what you eat. Like, your bones and muscles are all made up of what you put into your body.
Exactly.
If you put crap in your body, then you're a pile of crap
all the time. And then think about it too. I mean, say for example, in the hood, people are stressed out already. People are there, multiple jobs, multiple, you got kids, you got all, you 2 jobs, you got all this stuff going on. And so all that stress, it adds. And then when you don't have good food in your body, like, it's nutritional stress plus emotional stress. It's just like for so many health issues that we see. But it's I remember the breakfast was like, cereal. Lunch was like cup of noodles or pizza. And not even good pizza, but like processed pizza. And then dinner, sometimes like quesadilla or something like where there's just no vegetables. And that's the most common thing that we see, that I experienced myself growing up, and that, it continues. Nothing's changed in this area.
And then there's vitamin deficiencies and stuff like that.
That leads to that. Vitamin deficiencies,
diabetes, hypertension, all of that stuff. That right now with COVID, we're seeing these, like, the people who are most affected are people who have some underlying health issues. And a lot of that, I mean, there's genetic elements of that, of course, but there's like everything that I talk about in here that's controversial. There's like the biological, and then there's the societal. And there are biological issues, but there's also the societal, which would be like the nutrition and the healthy lifestyle and getting sunlight. Because apparently vitamin D might be a big part of how people are getting COVID. I heard Rhonda Patrick talking about that. And if you're darker skinned, then you have like 28 times less vitamin D. So there's all of these things that go into it. I guess I don't understand. You as a health person, I'm getting frustrated by the lack of our like governors, mayors, president, the crew, the team talking about healthy lifestyle. Like, why is that not being as much of a part of this conversation of like, let's get as healthy as we can. There's a pandemic out there, so we should get as healthy as we can so our bodies are able to fight if we get exposed to it. That I don't hear that on the news at all.
No, I think it's probably a combination. I mean, how much has Big Pharma spent on making sure we don't talk about that? There's that.
Take a pill, it's easier.
That's a whole separate conversation, I'm sure. But like, it's I mean, we don't talk about that at all, which is why we at Compton Health Bar, I mean, I go on live every Tuesday night at 8:00 on our Instagram channel, and we talk about a different topic, but the central theme is always like, it's immune system. That's what our core, like, we want to stay as healthy as possible to fight all these other things. But the emphasis on getting healthy from the inside out, and also trying to get our environment as healthy as possible, is it's always where we start. But it is frustrating to me too that there is no talk about that. And so that does, for us, just fuels me more to like, okay, let's keep talking about our immune system.
There's a need. For sure. It's education. And, you can provide that. I have friends that are doctors, and I know people who are very prestigious doctors who have even admitted, they're like, we don't learn nutrition. Like, we don't know. Like, really good surgeons and stuff, they're just like, they don't teach us nutrition. How many doctors do you know who are like really unhealthy in their personal lifestyle?
It's devastating that
all the time.
It's like mind blowing that the doctors don't. I think they get maybe like a semester of like some basic.
If that.
If that. And yeah, no, I dream of a world where, like, doctors can learn, nutrition. They can learn herbal medicine. They can,
Yeah.
like, there's just so much that other countries do it. I think Germany's one of the ones that, like,
Okay.
Mexico, some doctors, and there's a few other countries where there's a collaboration between the two worlds. But here, unfortunately, we're not there, and
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
of powers that want it that way. But what we can do on our end is take care of ourselves as best we can, get as healthy as possible, get as strong as possible.
Yeah, and one of the things that I get sometimes is I hear people say like, well, people who are overweight or unhealthy, that's their choice. And being a teacher, I've seen it where it's like, well, hold on a second. If all you know is hot Cheetos from the time you're 5 years old and Pepsi and things like that, then to all of a sudden when you realize, oh, this is unhealthy, which sometimes isn't until later, much later in life, but to realize like, oh, I should be eating more fruits and vegetables. Your gut microbiome, your taste buds are all just like, what is this? Ugh. You're so used to this like massive flavor explosion. You can't just turn that off and all of a sudden go from eating hot Cheetos to eating Brussels sprouts. It takes some time for your body to recognize that and feel what nutrition feels like. That's way too simplistic to say that people just have a choice, because this is something that you're born into. What got you to embrace this lifestyle when you seem to be in a community that in general seems to not recognize it or wasn't exposed to it? So what got you to kind of be woke to nutrition stuff?
Oh man, it was, well, speaking from the perspective of always being the fat kid in the class, because I was always the
Oh,
biggest, most obese kid in the
oh,
class,
interesting.
for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
It was only the first few years of my life when I was in Michoacan in Mexico, because there we didn't have access to processed foods. Actually, because we lived in a small town next to a rural community.
Mm,
We had to, like, walk to where they milk the cows to get milk, for example. And my
so
parents
good.
would cut fresh alfalfa to make me juices because, there wasn't, like, enough money for, like, formula and stuff like that. So they would do a combination of, like, you know, watered down cow's milk and, like,
Yeah.
this alfalfa juice, but it was, like, all fresh things. And so those first few years really helped my gut out,
Mm-hmm.
is when we came here, that's when I blew up. I was healthy. I was a healthy
Yeah,
kid,
you
but
were
then when we
used to
got
it.
here
Yeah.
and into Linwood, blew up. Like, and it was in my mind at the time, I was in heaven because I had all these, like, Pop Tarts I'd never seen in my life before, and they
Yeah.
were like, I was like, what is that? Like, those are
Oh,
amazing.
delicious. Yeah.
Delicious. Like,
Yeah.
my mind was blown with just the amount of things and packages
For sure.
that existed here. When the first time I still remember we walked into a Food for Less. That was
Uh,
our grocery store in
yeah.
Linwood. To me at the time, that Food for Less was like the most awe-inspiring, like, food market, largest thing I'd ever seen in my life. And so um, that's how we ate whatever we found it was always processed, this process that, but at the time I didn't know that that was not healthy. I had no idea. My parents
Yeah.
didn't either. They simply bought what they could afford and fed us that way, and as a result, I was pretty obese most of my teens, most of my early adulthood. And it wasn't
Oh, okay.
until I, first of all, left Linwood, like,
Okay.
and actually got
Yeah.
out, left the hood for a little bit, not much, not long, um, and explored, that I saw other foods and other possibilities, but my own health issues that I developed growing up so
Mm-hmm.
obese were what led to the changes, of course, because that combined with what I was learning running this health store that originally I had, we took over because it was a good financial opportunity, but then became my entire, like, life and lifestyle.
Yeah.
um it was, yeah, it was a result of, like, I had severe anxiety, like panic attacks that were, like, so debilitating. Like, my wife had to take me to the urgent care a couple times because I thought I was gonna, like, freaking die. I was like, oh,
Right. Oh
this
man.
is how it ends. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so it was my own struggles with health, and when my wife and I started exploring, like, okay, what are the different ways that we can Like, what do we do? Like, and how do we figure this out? Don't feel well. It's hormones are just like all over the place, like hormonal imbalances, gut issues, like you name it, anxiety,
Yeah.
and it's all related, truly. And but yeah, if I had to pinpoint, I guess what led to the changes was my own exploration.
Hardships.
Yeah, my own
Yeah.
experience,
That's
and once I kind of figured out and hacked a few things. It became the lifestyle. That's what I'm trying to help other people figure out for
yeah,
themselves. This is a different journey for everybody,
for sure.
but if I can be helpful in getting people on the track, then that's
Yeah.
mission.
I see anxiety all the time, especially with young people. And when I tell them things like, well, you're eating a ton of sugar and a ton of bad food, if you
Yeah,
want to call it food, I was like, that is clearly linked to anxiety. They're like, no. It's like, well, of course. Of course. Come on. Like, you're like, of course, like it's not just what happens is people who aren't obese but eat garbage, they think that, well, I'm not fat, so I must be healthy. And that's not the case. Because
yeah,
what's going on in your body, it might not manifest in something that's aesthetic or something that you can see, but it still
right.
manifests in your endocrine system and just the efficiency of your
Yeah, we see
body.
that in
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah, this is so important just to get people to recognize like how to make these changes in your life. And sometimes you have to learn it the hard way. Sometimes you have to
yeah.
go through it. And it sucks to be overweight and teased, and it sucks to have anxiety, and it sucks to have all those things, be very self-conscious every time that you're at the beach or something like that. Like that
Oh yeah.
sucks, and I'm not minimizing it, but it has to get to a point for whatever it is where you go, I want something different. I'm sorry.
No, you're
Yeah.
right. You're absolutely right. I think health, and again, in my experience and what I see with the people that I see, it's hard to face. Health is hard to face. It's
Yeah.
not until like you really have to. I think oftentimes that you really make that shift. At least that's how it happened for me, and when I see it happening for a lot of people, it often is something that you just don't feel right. At least what I said to myself, this can't be how I'm supposed to feel. There has to be a way to hack this, and there is.
For sure. I do want to talk about the kind of experience that you've had as a small business owner. But
Yeah,
before that, the biggest thing that I hear a lot is that it's too expensive to eat healthy, and that's why people who are low income or on under the poverty line or something like that don't eat healthy. What is your take on that? There's elements I'm sure that are true and elements that are false. So what is your take on the idea of cost? Like, what is a meal at your store cost compared to fast food and stuff like that? What are your take on the cost issue?
well, the cost is definitely a big factor. It's not all the reason. It's a combination
Hmm.
of things. I think cost is a big thing because when people just compare, for example, most people will just look at it as like, well, you know, a salad costs $5 versus a cheeseburger costs
Right.
$2. So I'm gonna, feed my family with $10 instead of feeding one or two people with,
Hmm.
X amount of money. But
Yeah.
what's not often considered is like what the cost is that going to be, the health cost. Then, you know, so people might not look at it that way, but cost, there's also distance, transportation. A lot of people don't have cars. I've spoken to customers that tell me, I want to eat healthier. I want to get, healthier whole foods, but I have to take 3 buses to get to the nearest grocery store that actually carries organic produce. And
Jeez.
so when you have to plan your entire day around a grocery store trip, you kind of think twice about that. And then education is a big part of it too. People just don't know how to view that. They don't know that there is ways. For example, you can go to Walmart. As part of what we were trying to teach people, we were shooting videos from the local Walmart because that's what we have in Compton for groceries. There's a
Yeah.
Walmart, there's a Superior, and there's a food for less. There is a grocery outlet which is pretty hooked up with some good things from time to time in the freezer section, but you gotta like check in. It's not consistent
Yeah.
inventory.
Yeah.
So um, So we went to like the freezer section and showed people like, look, if you get like, actually Walmart has quite a variety of organic produce, but it's in the frozen section. So,
Right.
but a lot of it's just education. There is no resources. There aren't, there's no one spending a lot of time, or local governments are not spending enough time telling people what they can do with what we have available.
Yeah. So it's on us essentially. It's on you to be doing everything you're doing, and then
Pretty
me
much.
to try and give you a platform and then spread this out and put it out on Instagram, put it on social media. You going on Telemundo. Like it has to almost be a bootstrap within the community. Government's not going. I mean, this might be a transition into the COVID thing, but governments can't save you. It just can't. We have
No,
to
it's up
find a
to
way to do
us.
this with ourselves.
I
And
literally
there's
say
also
that every Tuesday.
yeah, there's also an opportunity to like, to cook. Like there's some effort that if you buy just like potatoes and chicken and then you cook it as a family, it's an opportunity to do things as a family and all that stuff. But
Absolutely.
you don't know that if you haven't been exposed. If you never had family meals like together, all
Right.
sitting at the table, you don't know that.
Right.
So
No, and
that's why education is so important.
exposure is such key. Like
Yeah,
when you're not exposed, you don't know. Like there's
yeah,
so much that I wasn't exposed to as a kid myself, that as an adult, once I was exposed to it, I was like, oh my God, like I can't believe like all these things. Like, I mean, how many kids are missing out on, X
yeah.
amount of
I
things,
know.
their lives different.
Yeah. And that's the stuff that I was talking about that gets in the way of the American dream. It's just like, this is solvable. This is just information. I mean, I know Killer Mike's been doing stuff to try and talk about better nutrition. I know, like, even going back to like Tupac, his song like Changes in the early 90s, one of the
Yeah.
lines is like, let's change the way we eat, let's change the way we live, let's change the way we treat each other. I mean,
Yeah,
the way you eat matters.
absolutely.
From like where the food comes from to how you prepare it to how you consume it. Are you in a community? Are you with your family? All of that stuff really matters a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. All those also, there's different elements of food, and there's opportunity, but you're right. It's up to us. It's always up to us, because governments, unfortunately, are not. What they are able to do, it oftentimes is not enough. And I know
Yeah.
it's hard. I mean, I don't govern a city or anything, but I can see that it's hard, but it's yeah, there's a lot of lack. And so part of our mission at Compton Health Bar is try to fill a tiny bit of that nutritional void, precisely because there aren't a lot of healthy foods in our community.
Yeah.
What we do is, most of our formulas, we sell herbal formulas in powder form. And the reason we do it in powder form is because we can easily control the amounts, 500
Yeah.
milligrams of this, 200 grams of that. And so when I hear people, for example, no one gets greens, no one gets kale, no one gets arugula, no one gets
Hmm.
like all that stuff around here. So I'm like, okay, if you're not getting that, then let's supplement it with some spirulina. Let me introduce you to chlorella. Let me introduce you to wheatgrass. Let me introduce you to barley grass
Yeah.
powder. So then we do that, and people are like, oh, I didn't know that there was all these like superfoods that you could have that could sell. I'm like, well, it's not the full solution. I still want you to eat your damn vegetables, but
Hmm.
if you're not gonna get them at the very least, then let's get some of this in. And
Yeah, and at first you eat it, you're like, whoa, 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 and then all of a sudden your body is like, oh, whoa,
yeah.
okay, like it's just a process. It's a little uncomfortable at
It's a
first, and you have to
process.
be
I'm
willing
like,
to get
look,
a little
you're gonna
uncomfortable.
have to try this, but it's gonna be all right. You're gonna beat it
Yeah,
up. And yeah, that's been the reaction. Thankfully, we've people again want to get healthy. People want to feel good.
yes,
So the support from the community that we've gotten has just been incredible, and it's because people want to feel good and they want more solutions. I want there to be like 10 health bars, 10 Compton health bars instead of
me
10
too.
bars.
So yeah, let's try and get you there. Honestly, Danny, like it's so important, and it's just the ripple effects of good that can come from good nutrition coming to. Sorry, I keep saying like the hood,
Yes.
but like the ripple effects of the positive ripple effects will just be good for. It's good for everyone in
Yeah.
society to have healthier people in low income areas. It's just better all around.
100%. I mean, I noticed it myself. When I started feeling better, I wanted everything around me to feel better.
Hmm.
I wanted, my space around me to feel better. The community.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a ripple effect, like you said. It starts with each individual, and then you just want goodness all around. You want everyone around you to feel good.
Yeah, you have to give up like almost the short term, the satisfaction of ice cream or cake or cookies, the short-term like high you get from that is very fleeting, where you're exchanging that like instant gratification for the long-term gratification. And you can have cake.
Of course.
Go to Disneyland once every 2 years. It's actually better than going every weekend because it's special,
Yeah.
The last thing I do want to touch on, because this is during COVID, and you're a small business owner, and if there's any group that the groups that are really being focused on right now, and that we should like be focusing on and giving our thanks to, would be the first responders, healthcare workers, and small business owners. My wife owns a salon. I know the plight well, the struggle. How are you guys doing during this whole thing?
Well, it's been difficult, but thankfully we have been able to stay active, and by active I mean our storefront has actually been closed for the last 2 months. We closed March 16th, a few days before the actual order to stay at home. And we've been closed since. The storefront has been, and it's been difficult because our whole business model, at least for 2020, was still centered around making the store experience, the in-store experience, as amazing because people loved coming into the store. We had workshops, and we had all these workshops planned for the rest of the year. So it was a learning space and a shopping space, and then the whole plan. And then we had built a plan, thankfully, for online, but we weren't planning on pushing that until, and at least not aggressively, not yet. Yeah. Well, that has changed, and it's we since it's closed, and I don't foresee an opening date, at least soon. It doesn't seem.
Are you able to do deliveries or takeout?
Yes. So that's what we've shifted to that. Okay. From day one being closed, we shifted to let's do delivery only, curbside only, shipping only.
Like meal prep or?
So the way everything that we sell, like I said, it's powder herbs or whole dried herbs, and so they come in like food packaging, but it's craft bags for the most part. Okay. And it's pretty easy. I mean, thankfully it's stuff that preserves well. The shelf life is pretty stable, and so that was fortunate. And we have tinctures, we have stuff like that, capsules. But yeah, we had to shift to do only online shopping, but unfortunately, because again, we hadn't made the transition to online fully just yet, it has certainly hurt us a little to not have all of our in-store inventory available online. I mean, it takes hundreds of hours to like put all that on there if you don't have an in-house person. So yeah, we've definitely faced our challenges, but overall we've stayed open. We've stayed really busy because it's a health crisis, so we're a health business. Okay. So thankfully people are still willing and happy to invest in their health, which is good to see. But yeah, it has been hard making that shift, to making that adjustment to making sure we give people like a smooth online and learning the curbside pickup rhythm. I mean, there's certain things that we're having to learn to do for the first time that we had never done before. Yeah. And it's been a learning experience, but overall, again, I'm just grateful to be busy, to be open, to be, and because of Telemundo, that allowed us to get orders from all over the country rather than just dependent on our.
And you're shipping them out?
Yeah, we're shipping out.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah,
we're shipping out, we're delivering, we're preparing orders for pickup. It's, we're busy.
And there's like an online menu or something like that?
There is an online menu. Okay. Yeah, there is an online
I'll tag all your stuff in this when
yeah, there's an online store. Now we are working on getting more stuff on our online store, but there is now you can shop at ComptonHealthBar.com.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Like I know when this all happened, my wife, she has a brick and mortar, but she's also grown like an online business, and just this, just the life of an entrepreneur is jumping off of a cliff and building an airplane on the way down.
Yes.
So you're used to just.
That is the best way to describe it.
It's just like, and sometimes you land on the rocks and break your leg, and you know what I mean? It's just, it's so brutal. But what that does is it makes you like, oh, COVID, all right, I'll figure it out. And it's,
Yeah,
I was listening to, I think it was Simon Sinek.
exactly how the thought process. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was Simon Sinek was saying that there was a pizza shop in Chicago that 70% of their business came from selling slices at the door.
Yeah.
And that went away. So they said, what do we do? And they did an inventory and they said, like, what assets do we have? We have these big pizza ovens. They get really hot. Hey, wonder if we could mold plastic. And they started making PPE in their pizza ovens. And
That's amazing.
yeah, he said, maybe coming out of this, you might have two businesses, and, maybe, Compton Health Bar out of this, is going to be not just like an awesome experience in Compton, but like also like a brand for the whole country to go out. And you just have to be willing to pivot during these really hard times. Those business owners out here, like, look at what you have, look at what skills you have, what assets you have, and what are skills and assets that you can acquire, and then you can pivot your business. It might not look the way that you thought it would, but it can maybe look like something better. We just don't know.
Yeah, no, there's definitely opportunity in this. We do see an opportunity for huge growth. We do have to just continue making the adjustments and pivots, but I think we can make a pretty good parachute on the way down on this one.
I think so too. Yeah.
I think we can make it's a good opportunity for a damn good parachute. Hopefully, no broken legs.
No. And so, Dani, like, the part of what I try to promote to my students and with this podcast is the idea, kind of expanding on the American dream, the idea that you can find success for yourself, for your immediate family and community, and then for the world as a whole, like these circles. And what you're doing, I'm gonna kiss your butt a little bit, is good all around. It's good for you. You're turning a profit. You're able to, provide for you and your wife and your situation, your family. It's good for your immediate community where you grew up because you're bringing health to them. And then it's good for everyone because they're getting exposed to a healthy lifestyle. Like, for people listening out there, especially young people, don't believe the nonsense that for you to find success, it has to come at someone else's like detriment. This isn't a zero-sum game. You can find massive success because you are providing success to others in whatever that might look like. And I think you just embody this. What you're doing is embodying this. This is what we need to encourage more. It's what we need to support more. And this is something that everyone out there has, a Compton Health Bar idea in their head. And to make that into a reality is extremely difficult, what you're doing, but it's also extremely rewarding. And it's how we advance as a people. I'm not being hyperbolic. It's as good as it gets. It really is. It's incredible.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, no, it's again, it keeps me motivated. It's what fuels me. It's I'm grateful that I'm like, wow, this is my job. I get to talk to cool people every day, and then I chat about like health and herbs and like like how to feel good, and we get such amazing feedback from people. It's truly I do recommend that people find the Compton Health Bar idea in you, something that helps not just you but your communities, your people you care about, the things that you care about. And it's going to be a pretty awesome ride.
I think kids are told, like, seek what you love, turn your passion to a career. And I think that's a little bit, it's a little bit short-sighted because I love getting drunk by the pool, but that's not a good career. So I think more accurately it is. And I've been saying this, I've been putting this idea out there a lot because I think I have not a lot of original ideas. And this is one of them, is seek what you love working hard at. Because I'm guessing, Dani, that you work really hard.
Yeah.
So, but you enjoy it. So what do you love doing? Because you might love doing drugs.
Right.
What do you love busting your butt at? And that's the goal. That's the life goal, that if you can find what you love working hard at.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the
best. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. Find what you love working hard at, because it is hard work. It's a lot of hard work. There's days when it's overwhelming, days when it's you're exhausted, but it's the love for working hard.
Yeah, it's meaningful. So tell us where we can find, ComptonHealthBar.com. Where can people find you, follow what you're up to, see everything? Let's blast it out there. And for all of you listening, please share, and let's let's support the American dream so that others believe that the American dream is possible, so that this becomes viral, this becomes contagious. The idea that
Yes,
you can
thank you.
overcome anything.
So yeah, you can follow us at Compton Health Bar on Instagram and on Facebook as well. We have a website where you can shop, comptonhealthbar.com. And we're most active on Instagram. Usually, we do lives, we do most events. Usually, are posted there first before anywhere else. So that's really the best way to connect with us, and the best way to take a look at what's current, what's new, what's up. That's at Compton Health Bar on Instagram.
Very cool. All right, Dani, thank you for coming.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
everyone for listening, and yeah, see you next time.
Thank you.